we are live for the first time on insideF2's first ever live stream. Aaron Harper, Hannah Blow, and Jim Kimberley with us to reflect on a really exciting FIA Formula 2 sprint race. Aaron, what a race. I mean, action from start to finish, right?
Oh, it was brilliant. It was everything you hope a race at Silverstone could possibly serve up. There was overtakes, there was brilliant car control, there was just so much to be admired about it. And the racing was fantastically clean as well, which was just excellent. It was a real good test for these young drivers who want to make the grade in Formula One. Test for their skills in that condition. And the guys in commentary on the TV said that there hadn't been a wet race since Monaco last year. So you're probably going to go even further back for a race in the wet at a proper racing circuit. So well done to all the drivers.
Absolutely. Showing their high quality and high skill set in the rain, which is brilliant. If you do have any questions, let us know in the comments section. I can see Mr. J Porter in the comments saying, let's go. Let's go indeed. What a race it was. Anna, how much did you enjoy that?
I was actually surprised by how much they kept it on the track. I was with all maybe a couple of actions, really well controlled and skill, but it was such an amazing race and there was overtakes everywhere. So
it was brilliant, wasn't it? And our winner, Jack Doohan, first time winner in Formula 2. I mean, it was a pretty brilliant drive, wasn't it, Aaron? From P4 on the grid. And as soon as he got into the lead, there was, up until the last few laps, he really was in control, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had control, but he had to do the work to get there. He worked really hard. There was 3 or 2 at least excellent overtakes. I think the first one was on Yuri Vips into Village, where he ran around the outside of Farm and then nailed it on the brakes. And I think he repeated the move the lap after on, I think it was Daruvala. 2 excellent moves. And then when Fittipaldi made a little error, there he was on the scene to pounce. And he never looked back. He opened up a 3-4 second lead and just managed it. And even though Iwasa was putting on the hustle towards the end, he held firm. And I don't think he was really ever under pressure enough to make a mistake, and there was no real threat to him losing that victory other than an unforced error.
Yeah, I do agree. He was very, very strong, wasn't he? Very strong. I can see a few comments coming in. Disaster race for Jehan. Completely agree. Wasn't his strongest race. We'll talk about that in a minute. And real good day for the rookies. Absolutely, it really was. Obviously, Jack Doohan still a rookie. Anna, we were speaking in the preview show about Virtuosi. Maybe not had the best start to the season, but this is, they needed a strong weekend, and this is the brilliant start to the weekend, isn't it?
yes. I think the commentators were saying they've won at least one race in 19 here. Out of time before he did win the race.
Yeah. As we've just said, let's talk about Iwasa as well. Mr. J Porter on Twitter has said, would Iwasa have done it with one more lap? What do you think, Aaron? Would he have done it? A really strong race from him.
It was a really strong race, but I think the way he was pushing, he was probably just about bringing those wet tires to the boil. So I think Doohan probably had enough in hand. In that position, Doohan had earned enough of a gap. He had a bit of a luxury in the fact that he could allow Iwasa to push and to close up. But every now and again, he'd just pop a purple sector in or a fastest lap just to retain that little advantage and just sort of eke it out closer and closer to the flag. And I think with one more lap, it would have probably been the same result. I think what would have changed it is if the sun had come out like 2 laps earlier and dried the track up, then there would have been a dive for the pit lane maybe, or some drivers maybe trying to hang it out on the wets, which would have been really fun and interesting to see. But I think Doohan had it under control, like we said earlier. There was never really a huge threat, although Iwasa really did push hard, and he was working the wheel so hard through Luffield on the final lap. And Luffield is normally a smooth, long right-hander, but I think Iwasa did right, left, right, left, right, left, right. It was quite something to watch as he soared away at the steering wheel.
Would Iwasa have wished he might have pushed a couple of laps earlier, given the pace he had in the last couple of laps?
Possibly, but again, you have to play that game of how hard do you push the tyres and how much do you need to close up. I think had he pushed 2 laps earlier, then he'd have just fallen back into the clutches of Fittipaldi, perhaps. I think, as I said, Doohan had done enough to secure the win a little bit earlier on. So try as he might, Iwasa was really sort of chasing nothing. But still, for Iwasa, on his first race at Silverstone in such conditions, that is a mightily impressive performance.
Yeah, really impressive, as we've said. Anna, we've got a question come in that says, brilliant defence put up from Enzo Fittipaldi to be on the podium. It really was a good defence, wasn't it? He did drive well. He obviously started well, was in the lead for a bit. He's got himself another podium. Anna, don't. So, Aaron, I'll put that one to you. Obviously, yeah, very, very good drive from Enzo Fittipaldi.
Yeah, it was a nice, tidy drive. He managed his race well. I think he went a bit too early on the push because obviously he'd seen Daruvala sort of coming back towards him. So you have to go for it, I suppose, in that situation and hope that you can make the best of the tyres and do what Doohan did, which was break free and get the clear air, get the gap. But unfortunately, he made that error and was reeled in. But he recovered nicely, kept his composure, and he's bagged himself a podium. So you can't say fairer than that in such tricky conditions where it would have been so easy to be frustrated at making the mistake, try too hard, and find yourself in the gravel somewhere.
Yeah, lots of questions coming in. Please keep them coming in. Absolutely loving the engagement so far. We've had a question from, again, Mr. J. Porter. Who was the driver of the day outside of the top 3, in your opinion, Aaron?
I liked the way that the ART boys went about their business. But I think, considering his championship position, the way that Drugovich handled his race, because starting from P8 on the grid, he could have got himself caught up in something really kind of damaging. I know he's got quite a big advantage, but the way these Formula 2 weekends are put together, it only takes one dodgy result to knock the confidence, and then all of a sudden a 50-point advantage becomes 15 points and the title race is back on. So for him to finish a couple of places, I think, hang on, where did Pourchaire? Yeah, finished right behind Pourchaire. So you can't say fairer than that. He's limited the damage that Pourchaire has managed to do to his championship lead. So he's just managing his weekends very nicely. He'll start from P3 tomorrow. And the way he looks after the tyres, and Silverstone being a high tyre wear circuit, he'll fancy his chances.
You can't write it, can you? They're glued together. They're top 2 in the championship. Had a few great battles earlier on in the season. Identical times in qualifying, and then they're still finishing together on the road in the sprint race, aren't they? So, really good to see from those. Another question come in. Do you think that Liam Lawson could have got on the podium without the contact? Anna, are you with us again?
Really sorry, technical difficulty on my end. I reckon he could have been close to the podium. So he could have been close. But podium.
Yeah, we'll never know, but obviously we know how quick Liam Lawson is in race trims. So really good drive from him. Let's talk about Jehan Daruvala then. A few comments in there. Obviously already had a comment in there saying about a bit of a disaster race for him. Would you say it was a disastrous race for him, Aaron? Is that a little bit harsh?
It's it's a bit harsh, but it's not far from the truth, to be honest. He started on pole position. He said he needed to win, and he's come away with a single point, which obviously the only way it could have been any worse was scoring no points. So he'll be really, really disappointed with that. The team will have a look at everything. I think it would have been a real sort of mix-up between the drivers pushing too hard on their tyres and what the cars had been set up to do, because they may have accounted for the rain, they may not have accounted for the rain. So we don't know who had and who hadn't. And, you know, it could transpire that Virtuosi had gambled on a wet race, and that's why Doohan was able to deliver such good pace, as was Iwasa. And teams like Prema were banking on a drier race, and they end up chewing up the tyres because they were sliding around. Yeah, we probably won't get given that information, but that's probably where it is. And for Jehan, it's difficult because he starts 10th tomorrow. A lot of work to do. He's going to need some safety cars or something crazy to happen for him to get some big points. And he needs something to happen to the guys ahead of him in the championship, realistically, to start closing that gap.
Yeah. Are these the type of races that Jehan, starting from pole in a Prema, are they the type of races that he should be winning, Anna, do you think?
Yeah, well, fighting for the championship to have many weekends like today to maximise that as much as possible to win the championship. But I mean, there's still a chance tomorrow he can do well around him.
I think tomorrow he's still yet to finish inside the top 2 in a feature race. So let's wait and see how he gets on tomorrow. I think we have the one and only Mr. Jim Kimberley joining us. Jim, how are you?
Suffering from technical difficulties, but hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you. We can't see you. You're frozen on the screen. But hey, we don't mind.
I look very...
No, not a problem. Not a problem. What? First of all, your thoughts on the race? It was. We've been speaking about how brilliant the race was from a driving perspective. That everyone kept it on the track, and there was no real instance.
Yeah, the fact there was no safety car was absolutely baffling to me. I was thinking, where F2 race, it was still great, but I was expecting like a safety car. I was expecting somebody to take a victory who, well, we still had it, who wasn't at the start near the front, but. Yeah, I just couldn't believe it shows you the quality of the grid, actually, that we didn't get any major incident. I think Sato had a mechanical DNF, but contact was slight with Lawson and Pourchaire, which ruined Lawson's race. Pourchaire was lucky to continue. But yeah, it was mega from the drivers this time to keep it on the road. And I really enjoyed the race. It was difficult to keep on top of what was going on. And then, unfortunately, the cameras missed Doohan's pass for the lead until way later, and I was screaming at the telly to say, look, Doohan's in the lead, let me see what happened, and Fittipaldi just struggling to keep his car on the road, doesn't he?
I know, I was doing the same thing. Was doing just passed for the lead, but it was obviously from that mistake from Enzo Fittipaldi, who was I think he was struggling with his tyres at that point, wasn't he? But if you're looking ahead to tomorrow then, Jim, obviously really excited for the race tomorrow. Logan Sargent starts on pole, and he made some really good progress through the field today, didn't he? P8.
Sargent Logan, yeah, did a really good one. I think he's one of these races where he just ended up keeping the car on the road, though. Like it wasn't a bad drive from him, and I don't know if the Carlin really has the pace in the wet to maybe challenge. So he's obviously in a good position for the tomorrow from pole position, and he's really showing his credentials. But yeah, I think he learned a little bit after Baku that just keeping the car away from the walls and off the grass at Silverstone is exactly what you need to do. He benefited from Lawson falling down, and then Daruvala, should I say, his later tyres dropping off a cliff. So he didn't have to do a lot to take the places, but that's not to say he didn't do a lot to keep the car on the road for 20 laps in those conditions. And you saw the drivers just going here, there, and everywhere to keep the tires cool as well. So a bit of a masterclass from all of them to keep the tires running. And Doohan's rear left, I don't know if you guys spotted it. It just looked like in awful state on the final few laps. I think the dry track was not suiting the wet tires whatsoever in those closing stages. So yeah, tomorrow's going to be great. I don't know exactly why we like racing in the UK.
Yeah, the British weather at it again, and I'm sure it will be for the rest of the weekend. Mahal Menden in the comments saying, hopeful to see some more great racing tomorrow. I think we are too, so definitely echoing those thoughts. Another comment, what have we learned today that applies tomorrow, Aaron?
Well, I think, like I said earlier, I think Drogovic is going to be licking his lips from third on the grid. If it's a tyre limited race, then obviously the tyre whisperer of Formula 2, he is the man to. We can be hopeful of a good performance from Logan Sargent. I was just looking at the final lap times, and Sargent matched Doohan. And obviously, I know Doohan had slightly different objectives than Logan Sargent at the time, but you know he's down in seventh. He's still managing to match the race leader at that point of the race. So we've seen Doohan has got good pace, and obviously Sargent has had rapid pace all weekend. Aside from Drogovic, I'd make Sargent the favourite for the victory, but you can't count out Vesti. He's on the front row tomorrow. It's going to be a really interesting dynamic. Two rookie, they're both rookies, aren't they? Sargent and Vesti this season. Yeah. So two rookies on the front row. I don't think they've been on the front row this season, so that would be quite an interesting dynamic between them. And Drogovic has got to manage his way past them. And you know, there's Pourchaire and Darivala trying to come through from behind, and everyone else wants to win too. So it should be a really, really fun, exciting race, and it will last a little bit longer than today. So if there's a little bit of rain and a little bit of dry, then we'll be in for a cracker.
I agree. Can't wait for it. We're going to wrap it up there. But just before we do, a few more comments. Shout out to Chris and Tom in the comms box. Absolutely. They were absolutely brilliant for first time or first race today. So, yeah, absolutely brilliant for them. Before we go, can I get a winner in the feature race from each of you? So, Anna, we'll come to you first. Who do you think is going to win the feature race tomorrow?
I'd probably say so. Looks like he's got pace. He's starting from. Yeah.
One vote for Logan Sargent, Jim.
Yeah, my heart's saying Logan Sargent, but I don't know. Vesti's obviously turned a corner as well. I'd like to see Sargent take it, but yeah, I'm going to say Vesti.
And Aaron, we'll come to you last.
I think Drogovic is going to come through. He'll just have he's got that couple of years extra experience. He's driving really well. He manages the tyres beautifully. Silverstone's a track where you need to look after the tyres. I think this is right up Drogovic's street. Unless he does something silly, he's in a really good position.
There we go. 3 different winners. For predicted winners for tomorrow. Really excited for it. Fascinating conversation, guys. We're going to wrap it up there. Aaron, Anna, and Jim, thank you very much for jumping on. Keep an eye out for our live stream tomorrow after the feature race. We'll be doing it all over again to review all of the action, we have no doubt. But from me, Fraser Ford, and all of us here at Inside F2, we'll see you next time.